Hi guys, I wanted to record a small video on triggers using a couple of trades I have going on at the moment on the same pair. I'm going to use the Kiwi as an example. The second trade I got in yesterday, I think, but in a brief explanation, I have on my strategy I have two kinds of charts. I have the setup chart, that's the 4-hour chart, and then the trigger chart, that's either the 30 minutes or the 15 minutes chart. I go into a lower time frame chart so that I can pinpoint a better entry and control better my risk, while at the same time my target is on the 4 hours. That allows me to have trades that are 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to 10 risk ratio, and this was the first one that I wanted to show you. This is 16 days ago. My trade was triggered the next day. This was my setup chart. I went into the lower time frame chart. I saw this this trend line here, and my entry was about there. And as you're gonna see, price did do this, didn't go up, and then I went in, I added to my position there. So the first entry was around there, you're gonna see later. And then the second entry was triggered yesterday, and it was around here. So this was the first setup chart. This was the second setup chart. So the first entry was somewhere in there, and the second entry was somewhere in there. Stop was always around here. So let's go into the chart so I can explain the several kinds of triggers you can test with and select the better one for your trading strategy. Here you see the two areas where I went in. I can mark here with a rectangle, 1, then 2. We'll only go into one of these in detail. The other one would be just the same. I'm gonna try and show you how the entry would have behaved if we would use moving averages, high-low break, trendline break, moving averages, Haikin Ashi, MACD, Stochastic, RSI, or patterns. So this would be the 4-hour setup. We would go into the 30 minutes and imagining we were looking for an entry at the break of this trend line. Well, one of the things is, where would the stop be? The stop would always be below the last significant low, would be this one. So any kind of trade where we're going to test the stop would not move. So on any the only difference would be where would we go in. So we could just try and get in at the break of the trend line, that will get you into trouble sometimes. So if we would just go in there, let's put this in green. If we were to go in there, on this trade it would be okay, but on some trades it will get you into trouble. I tend to have to use several different approaches to confirm one another. So let's say we would enter the other one, the break of the trend line plus the break of this high. So we would enter there, our stop would be there, and the price is going up so far. How about if we were to use moving averages? Moving averages, you guys have to test the ones that fit your trading strategy better. If you have smaller time moving averages, your entry could be there on that cross, but then if you want to have some more reliability on the results and wait for a better confirmation, you can use larger time frames, larger time moving averages. And if we were using the 50 and the 100, our entry could be there. We could even wait for the price to break, come back, and enter there. What if we were using Haikin Ashi candles? Haikin Ashi tend to smooth out the colors of the candles. So if we were looking for a green candle confirmation after the break of the trend line, we could go in at somewhere around here. This pullback is to be expected. You rarely have a trade that you enter and you'll be immediately in profit, and you'll never be in the negative. So always expect some retracement when you enter. So if we were using Haikin Ashi, we would probably go in on that second candle there. If we were using candlestick patterns, this we could probably go in at the break of the high of this huge hammer. Price was just pulled up after this candle. Another thing that you can look for, it's patterns. On most charts you're gonna find some kind of reversal pattern when on the lower time frame. So we could even be looking at something like this, a head and shoulders pattern. This would be here. Let's see, something like this. So here, coincidentally, the neckline is exactly at the trend line. It doesn't have to be, but you can find gartleys, you can find bats, butterflies, double tops or double bottoms on these areas. Well, what else do we have? Okay, MACD and stochastics and other indicators. So let's see, if we had the bottom here, MACD would be crossing over here, so we could look for an entry more over here. I personally am more comfortable entering after the break of the trend line, but that's because I trade the 4 hours, and I mean 10 or 15 or 30 pips, it's really not that much when you're looking for 500 or 1,000 pips. So I would never enter here, even though the MACD had given me the cross there. If we use stochastics or RSI, well, stochastics would give you an entry a little further up, around here on the back break. So you'd be entering on this area after the trend line. Well, that for me would work. I would be above the high and above the trend line, so those are the two things I look for. That would work. RSI here really doesn't give you a trigger. So these are some of the things you can look for when you're going into a trade and going into a lower time frame. I went into those, also had candlestick patterns there, but for me personally, I prefer combining two or three of the things I spoke about. I only use Haikin Ashi on a scalping strategy, so I don't use it here. So my entry was around that price there, break of trend line and break of high. That's what I use, but you guys can use trend lines to try and get in a little earlier, or Haikin Ashi if you want to try and get in a little earlier than that. But remember, your stop is always, independently of the trigger, your stop should be where it makes sense, and where it makes sense is below the, in this case, the biggest low, the lowest low on this chart at this time frame. So I hope it was helpful. This trade is going well so far, as you guys can see. I added to the position, so one entry was there, the other entry was around there. So 2 trades in profit so far. That's what we like to see. So I hope it was helpful, and trade safely.